Hey there, my friends. Thanks for being a Morning Mindset listener. What I've got for you in this episode is a little bit of what I would call bonus content. And this is the kind of content that is always available in the Partners Only podcast. It means if you become a partner for as little as $5 per month, you get access to a second podcast that I produce, which has content like what you're about to hear. If you're interested in becoming a partner, you can check it out at careygreen.com/partner. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Digging Deeper. I'm so glad that you're here. Hey, I want to make you aware of a couple of new resources that I've come across that I feel would be valuable to you. These are both podcasts. They are by a husband and wife, respectively. So two different podcasts, one by the husband, one by the wife. And he is a pastor and an author and a teacher. You can find him on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And there's a decent amount of controversy around him because he's one of those guys who's willing to just say what he believes is true. Sometimes he says it in a pretty blunt way. Sometimes he says it in a pretty, in your face kind of way to get your attention. But in my experience, he always says it with a genuine heart of loving the Lord and loving people and caring enough to say those hard things. All right, enough of a teaser. Let me give you the podcasts. The first is by the husband. His name is Douglas Wilson, and it's called The Plodcast, P-L-O-D, cast, Plodcast. And he speaks about current events in light of biblical truth. He deals with theological issues as well, and he also does book reviews on this podcast. I have found myself to be very challenged, edified, and encouraged by Douglas's podcast. I would encourage you to check it out. It's theplodcast.com. You can also find a link in the description for this episode. All right, the second podcast is by his wife, Nancy Wilson, and it's called Femina, Femina, Femina. And she is just a great Bible teacher. She has all kinds of insight and wisdom from her years as a mother, her years as a pastor's wife, her years now taking care of her father-in-law as a caregiver, and just lots of practical wisdom from the scriptures. I have always been edified by the things that she shares as well. So please check out her podcast and also check it out in the description of this episode. Now, I start off this episode giving you those two resources because one of the thoughts that Douglas Wilson has shared recently that has been very insightful to me and very helpful is this. He is known to say, and he has said many times in my hearing, stupidity is not a good strategy. And he says that in the context of looking at what's going on in our culture. Stupid things, foolish things never pan out. As a friend of mine, Ian, says, it all comes out in the wash. Eventually, it's going to be shown that foolishness and stupidity are not good ideas. And many times when we look at our world or the culture and we see the stupid or the foolish things that are being perpetrated or purported by the authorities or those who are the cultural elites, so to speak, we can be prone as Christians to wring our hands and get all worried and say how terrible the country's going and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and point to these things as evidence. And are they evidence? Absolutely so. They're evidence of sin's effect on the human psyche and on the human race. But friends, when we see things being foisted upon us as a culture that are just absolutely foolish or stupid, we should actually understand that something else is coming as a result of that foolishness and that stupidity, and that is failure. It may be failure on a national level, but it could also just be failure in terms of policies and in terms of things that are being implemented. And those things are not going to hold water for long because just the way God has created the world, foolishness and untruth do not work. They just practically don't work. I mean, if I were to tell you that trees are purple and that grass is pink, you would immediately tell me, no, it's not. And you would not at all be lured into my aberrant belief that trees are purple and grass is pink, because your experience and your in touch sense of what is reality would not allow you to go there. But friends, look around us at the things that are happening in our culture, and you will see that equally silly things are being said. And rather than being immediately rejected because they're so manifestly foolish or wrong or untrue, our culture is actually catering to those things. And our culture is actually accepting those things as something that could be a possibility and perhaps even is true. Let me give you an illustration so that you understand exactly where I'm going with this. Now, again, this is an illustration of the foolishness and the adherence to non-truth that our culture is falling into. We have this thing going around right now where people are choosing their pronouns. They are choosing how they want to be identified as male or female, he or she, or something else. Well, my friends, that's one of the most foolish things that could ever be talked about or ever even be considered. Why am I saying that? Well, I understand that there are people out there who struggle in their hearts, in their minds, in their psyche with their sexual identity. I understand that. But friends, that is a condition that comes about because of the effect of sin on the world. I'm not saying that person's sin in particular has caused this. Maybe it was their parents' sin in the way they were raised. Maybe it's the sin of the culture that they've grown up in that has caused them to have the confusion that they do. But the facts, the truth, are that the chromosomes in our body that determine sexual identity, male or female, have not changed. That can never be changed. 100, 1,000, 100,000 years from now, if our archaeologists find the bones of a gender-confused person, they are going to identify by those chromosomes, this was a male or this was a female. And there will be the end of the story. You see, God has made us male and female. And to say, I feel like a man trapped in a woman's body, may be an expression of how you feel, but it is also an expression of untruth in a sense, because you are not a male, you are a female. That is the truth. Your biology tells you, your chromosomes tell you, it's just manifestly true. And so to entertain those thoughts is where we begin entertaining foolishness. And I'm not saying the struggle that you feel emotionally or psychologically isn't real, but you should be fighting against that as a believer and seeking help to fight against that from other believers and from qualified, competent pastoral counseling to help you push through the lie of Satan that is trying to convince you that you are a man when you really are a woman. You see, our culture is buying the lie of emotion and feeling and psychological sense of things. And all of that is just lies of the enemy that are foolishness that will one day erode. I mean, just walk down the path of this pronoun movement that I'm using as an example and think through all the ramifications that are going to come of that in our culture if we continue down that path. At some point, it's going to collapse because we cannot function, even communication-wise, with misaligned pronouns and odd uses of language that some adopt, some don't adopt. I mean, we're never going to get the widespread adaptation to that kind of thinking that is going to make it a functional society. It just can't happen. And so that's an example of the kind of thing that I have benefited from listening to Douglas Wilson. He's just saying the overtly true things that need to be said and pointing us back to Jesus as the solution for those things. And getting back to the point of when this kind of foolish thinking reaches its ultimate apex and things begin crumbling because they have to crumble under the load of foolishness that's being piled on them, what should we as believers in Christ be thinking? Well, we shouldn't be panicking about our society collapsing. We shouldn't be panicking about the country going down the tubes. We should be preparing and being ready to be the light that everyone in that situation is going to need. Friends, it's as plain as the noses on our faces that this is going to happen. And it's also as plain as the noses on our faces that we as believers in Christ must be ready for that day. Because so many people are going to be disillusioned, hurting, collapsed, confused, all kinds of things. And we have King Jesus to offer them. We have the way, the truth, the life to offer them. We have the answer. And when their hearts are ready, because the foolishness they've been pursuing has collapsed on them, we need to be there to bring them to saving knowledge of Jesus and to the wisdom and the stability of life that comes from knowing and following his truth. Friends, let's move forward in boldness. Jesus wins, and we are part of his team. We get to be on the winning side, and it doesn't start with some pie in the sky later when we die. It starts now as we, believers in Jesus Christ, hold forth the truth and stand fast in the truth and are not swayed by the foolishness of our culture. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a partner. If you know of anyone else who could use this kind of encouragement, please encourage them to go and find the morning mindset, to get involved in the daily discipline of aligning their mind with the truth of God, and then encourage them to become a partner as well. Thank you so much for your partnership. God bless you. I will talk with you again soon.